The time?
Hey.
I mean, it has to stop. It's also-
Okay, everybody ready? Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the December 12th, 2023 Gun Barrel City Council meeting. The City Council of the City of Gun Barrel City will meet in a regular meeting in City Hall Council Chambers located at 1716 West Main Street, Gun Barrel City, Texas, on Tuesday, December 12th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. If everyone would please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the privilege of living another day. Thank you for all these members of our city council, our city manager, all our employees, our first responders. Thank you for all of our citizens who showed up here tonight. Bless each and every one of them. Give us wisdom and clarity and bless us throughout the coming years. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
The pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I know.
I now establish a quorum. A roll call from my left, please.
Burns here.
Evans here. Jacobs here.
Key here.
Foster here.
We have a quorum. Citizens' comments. We have one gentleman slated to speak, Mr. Peters. Citizens' comments. The purpose of this item is to allow citizens an opportunity to address the city council on items that are listed on the agenda or issues that are not listed on the agenda. Any person desiring to make a public comment must first sign in at the podium at least 10 minutes prior to the start of the meeting and be recognized by the presiding officer. Individual citizens' comments are limited to 3 minutes. The presiding officer may ask the citizen to hold their comment on an agenda item until that agenda item is discussed. The City Council has no obligation to respond to in any manner to comments or questions from the public. Any response from a member of the City Council to non-agenda comments is limited to a statement of specific factual information, a recitation of existing policy, or direction to staff for follow-up. Is Mr. Peters here?
Good evening. Appreciate the privilege of coming and being before you. I'm E.J. Peters. I live at 219 Harbor Drive. I'm a full-time resident and have been for going on 14 years. I'd like to make a proposal that we make a 1% property tax and put it on the ballot, that we could have money to pay our officers a decent wage. We could hire some fire department people. We could put up some signal lights that we need bad, traffic lights. We need money for streets. We could give all city employees a little raise that I'm sure they need. And I have a neighbor that my wife met and just bought a house down here, $1,400,000 and something thousand, and this is his second home. We have a lot of those around here that's $1 million or so. And those people, some of them only come down here once every 3 months, but they can afford to pay some taxes. And we could have our streets good, we could have our officers paid well, and we could do the things that need to be done in the city. And I appreciate it if you put that on the ballot to be voted on.
Thank you, Mr. Peters, for your time. I appreciate you very much. Moving on with our agenda, consent agenda. All matters listed under consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Please consider approving the following reports. I think we have a PowerPoint presentation.
Not on this one.
Not on this one? Just the consent items. So do I have a motion to approve these?
I move that we accept the consent agenda as written. Burns, second.
Any further discussion? Move we vote from my left.
Burns, yes.
Evans, yes.
Jacobs, yes.
Key, yes.
Yes.
Motion passes. New business 2A, to discuss and/or take action to consider entering into an interlocal agreement with Henderson County for child abuse investigation and law enforcement services. We will have a presentation by our city manager, but I'm going to take liberty for just 1 minute. I know she's going to hate me for this, but I think everyone needs to know this. We have a big, huge congratulations to Angie Smith, our city manager, for completing her doctorate this past week. This was a 3-year endeavor, and I can promise you it comes with great sacrifice. With her and her family, and her commitment to her craft is a real blessing to this city. And so moving forward, when I ask her to sponsor an item, I will be referring her to Dr. Smith. And I think we are all, and everyone on council too, you all should be very, very proud of yourselves. You didn't get a great person, you got the perfect person for Gun Barrel City. So without further ado, may I have a presentation by Dr. Smith, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm actually going to turn this one over to our Henderson County Crimes Against Children Task Force. We have several members here. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and tell you what they do, and then they will have a presentation to give to council tonight about re-entering into this agreement with the task force. Bodie, whoever, everybody can get up and talk.
Bodie, can you go right there to the podium, please? Thank you.
I'm Bodie Hillhouse. I'm your county sheriff.
Clint Davis, I'm the county attorney.
Good evening, I'm Jenny Palmer. I'm the Henderson County District Attorney.
And I'm Sheila Davis. I'm the director over the Child Advocacy Center.
Would you like us to present now? So,
That'd be great. Thank you.
first of all, thank you for giving us the opportunity to come, hopefully clarify some things, answer any questions. And I want to go back, if the council will indulge me, and just give you information about the task force, how it operates, how these crimes operate. If I get to going too long, I'm an attorney, so I can talk a lot and I can talk fast. Somebody give me a signal. But we started the task force in Henderson County a year ago. And what the task force really is, I appreciate the introduction as this is the task force. What the task force really is we have 6 investigators that work under our sheriff and sheriff's department who are dedicated to nothing but crimes against children. 6 full-time investigators. That to me is a statement in a county our size. Those investigators are officed and housed at our Child Advocacy Center. If you're not familiar with that center, that's a building that's under the umbrella of the Henderson County Help Center. It's on North Palestine Street there in Athens, but not only do they have all of their office space and the normal things you would expect, but that's where our interview rooms are, where we have state-of-the-art technology with the audio, video equipment there, the glass that officers and prosecutors can sit behind, where we bring children and the children are interviewed at that facility. And the investigators are officed at that location. The reason we started this task force, and this is not something that's unique to Henderson County, it's not unique to the municipalities in Henderson County. It is very difficult in law enforcement for smaller municipalities to keep up with the demand of child abuse investigators. And child abuse investigations are much different than property crime investigations. When we think of property crime investigations, a stolen vehicle, a stolen piece of property, a burglary, graffiti, criminal mischief on a building, you rarely have witnesses. Most of the times with child abuse cases, you not only have a witness, but you have several witnesses. most of the time on property crimes, the investigator goes out, they have a complainant or a victim, they take a statement and they work it. There's so many more moving parts to a child abuse investigation. One is you always have witnesses. When they're children witnesses, we engage the Child Advocacy Center, who has forensic interviewers who are trained to interview children who are victims of crime. And we take those in and have those. If it's a sexual assault allegation, you'll want to and are required by law to offer a sexual assault nurse's examination. We call them SANE examinations. In this day and age, with crimes against children, we always have phones, right? Messages that may have been exchanged between your perpetrators, with your victim, phones that we may want to get search warrants for to extract data. You always have a physical crime scene, the home or location where this happened. That crime scene has to be secured, which requires an officer stay there at the crime scene. You may have a child. It's not uncommon that we have children that are taken to Dallas to Children's Hospital in abuse or neglect cases. Typically, you'll want an officer to go to the hospital with them. You'll want an officer doing the paperwork to get a search warrant for electronic devices to search a home. So where am I going with all of that? I want you to think about that process and think about that system and think about if you're a municipality. And when I'm presenting, I'm not presenting anything specific to Gun Barrel. But in most agencies, you're blessed with some smaller agencies, one investigator. Again, I don't know how many Gun Barrel has, but let's say you have 2 really good investigators. I don't care how good of investigators you can hire in the world. They cannot be 5 places at once. And so one of the beauty things of the task force is your agent, and so the way it would work is you get a child abuse case within your jurisdiction, your law enforcement officers call the task force and they say, here's what I've got, and our task force responds. They come out, they take that case. They will have an officer working on search warrants, doing paperwork. They can have an officer securing the scene. They can have an officer going to Dallas to Children's Hospital, and they can have an officer down at the Henderson County Child Advocacy Center sitting in on that interview. It is hard for small agencies to dedicate that type of manpower and resources on all of these child abuse crimes. It's hard for an officer over here to get over to Athens and sit in on these interviews. And we have seen that historically where it's hard for agencies to get officers over there. Again, the officers back here trying to take care of the crime scene and doing all of this. They really don't have time to go over to Athens for an hour-long interview at the Child Advocacy Center. That's an important component that if you're missing that, you miss it. We had an interview this afternoon, and my prosecutor, it was a juvenile offense, so my prosecutor, and not uncommon, Ms. Palmer, her prosecutors will also be at that interview. So that's an opportunity for law enforcement to sit down with a prosecutor and talk about the case, talk about what we have, what we need, what we don't have. And again, this is not a knock in any form on your law enforcement's abilities. It's an issue of they just don't have the resources, where we have 6 dedicated people that can go out and do that. The numbers, when we took over, started this program last year, Gun Barrel entered the agreement, we took over 18 cases that Gun Barrel had open and outstanding at that time. Some of those cases were 2 years old that had just been lingering. Again, not uncommon for smaller agencies. Another beauty of having 6 dedicated officers, when we have agencies that have 1 investigator, 2 investigators, these things can snowball. You get 1 case in, and we all know how things go. One thing that I always say with cases coming into my office, and the same for Jenny's office, is we can never turn the tap off. If we're doing 2,000 cases a year in my office and 2,000 in her office, there's never a time where we can stop that flow and say, give us a break so we can get caught back up. No. We've got cases coming in, and our job is to move cases and move cases out. It works the same with your investigators, and as luck has it, they're in the middle of trying to work a case, and guess what? a new one comes in, or another new one comes in, or they've got a vacation scheduled. How do you cover that when you've got an officer that's out on vacation? Officers now have to do an amazing amount of continuing legal education every year that we're required to send them to trainings. What do you do when you have your investigator is now out for training for 2 or 3 days or a week, and you have these cases coming in? Again, the great thing about the task force is we can manage that because we're spreading it out amongst 6 of them to respond and do that. But we took over 18, and to date, there's still 2 of those cases that are open, so we've closed out 16. That's from the cases we inherited from you as of January of this year. This year, the Child Advocacy Center has done 48 interviews of Gun Barrel City children. That number's also up. That's up from your last year number was 33. The year before that was 7, or I may have that backwards. Last year was 17. Year before that was 33. Year before that was 15. And so we see that number has also going up. And so from a time management standpoint, that is 48 interviews that were done over there at the Child Advocacy Center that probably had one of our task force investigators sitting in on that what prosecutors would ideally want you to have is an officer sitting over there with them. I think you're getting a good value for your dollar in this agreement. I don't think there's any way you can do it more efficient. We're here, not just me, but you can ask any one of us a question. I mean, I'm not here trying to give you a sales pitch because none of us make an extra dime off of doing this. We're here because we believe in the program. We believe in the system. And again, it's not unique to us. The state of Texas has recognized this model. They recognize that in smaller counties where you have municipalities that are stretched for resources and stretched for manpower, again, I don't have to tell y'all how hard it is to hire good law enforcement folks and to find good law enforcement, and I don't have to tell Chief Stevens that. I don't have to tell Mr. Peters this, who said we need to pay more. You know, it's a struggle. And we believe that working at this collectively, it's an approach that is going to be very effective in working these crimes. I do want to clarify one thing, because I threw out a big number in that 48. That's 48 interviews. Understand, not all interviews turn into criminal cases. Sometimes the children don't make outcries. Sometimes the case just cannot be substantiated. Sometimes maybe the allegations don't match a criminal offense. So that, you know, you may have 48 interviews. I'm not saying that there were 48 criminal cases that came out of that. I will pause, and again, I would love if the council has questions, ask any one of us any questions, or if anybody, did I miss anything? Does anybody have anything to add? So, yeah.
Just wanted to add very briefly one thing. As a prosecutor that handled crimes against children for a period of time, one of the things that we see with our officers that are dedicated to investigating these types of crimes is a high burnout. Because you're handling these types of crimes, and we're talking capital murder of children, sexual assault of children, they only can handle these crimes for so long before they're burned out. Hopefully they can take a break and go to a different type of investigation and come back to these types of crimes. But a lot of times when we get them trained and at their very peak, is about the time that they get burned out. And so this model with the task force is aimed to have longevity with our officers. Because they're working as a team, there is a lot of group dynamic there, and our hope is to continue where they all stay together for a period of time. We're doing the same. We've dedicated a prosecutor from my office to work directly with them, and our hope is to keep our officers healthy so they can mentally prepare for these types of cases and do the best that we can for the children. Sheriff, did you want to add?
The only thing I'll add is I'm extremely proud of what we have accomplished in this our first year. The investigators are doing an outstanding job. We're putting together more thorough and in-depth investigations. We have an investigator over there that can extract phone data, extract computer data. We don't have to run to another agency where we were having to take things to Kaufman County or to the state or to the feds and wait 2 years to get things analyzed. We can do that now in-house with this task force. So we're getting the, number one, we're getting the victims of the crime. We're getting them the counseling that they need quicker. We're getting more thorough investigations put together quicker with basically the group approach. Everybody comes together. We're not burning out our officers, and we're helping the municipalities, and we're helping the sheriff's office also. Before this task force started, I had 2 investigators that were dedicated to these types of crimes. They worked about 150 of these cases apiece a year. And, it just overwhelmed them, and in about 2 years, they're ready to go do something else. They don't want to look at it anymore. Now, with the group approach, the counselors that are over there for the children are always available for the officers also. And it's been a great approach. The state of Texas has recognized us. The state of Texas, CAC of Texas, Children Advocacy Center of Texas has given us money this first year and trying to basically use us as a pilot program for the rest of the state of Texas. So we're very proud of what we got established, and we're hoping that Gun Barrel City will continue to be a part of what we've got going.
I want to be the first to thank y'all. Whether the number was 48 or 1, I think everyone in this room will agree that's one too many, and y'all are doing God's work. There's no doubt about that. I will now turn this over to council and ask you if you have any questions for the staff.
I have a question. How many cities in Henderson County are y'all contracted with?
We've actually, we've got 13 entities that contract with us. That's some school districts and then some municipalities.
Thank you.
Further questions?
You answered my question. My question was, is there support for the task force?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have any questions. I just think y'all are doing a great job.
Well, thank you.
Everybody good?
Mayor.
All right, what we will do now is I will ask the council to approve item 2A, and do I have a motion?
I move that we consider, that we enter into an interlocal agreement with Henderson County for child abuse investigation and law enforcement services.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion?
Mayor, I would like to remind council, this does come with a budgetary commitment. It is $50,000. That is a portion of a salary for one of those investigators. But our treasurer has done some research. We do have that funding available, and she will be bringing it to you in a budget adjustment in the coming months.
Everybody good? We'll vote now for my left.
Burns, yes?
Evans, yes.
Jacobs, yes.
Yes.
Boss, yes.
Motion passes. Item 2B under new business is a presentation from the Charter Review Committee. I will again ask for Dr. Smith's lead on this.
Council, Mayor, we have our Charter Review, many members of our Charter Review Commission here tonight. I would ask you all to stand if you are on the Charter Review Commission and introduce yourself to council. I know council appointed you, but to everybody in the room. And then one will give a presentation of the last many months, I think 4 or 5 months of meeting every Monday night to go through the charter, literally line by line, and discuss every single item. And they are bringing forth their recommendations in a presentation tonight. Council will meet the first couple of weeks of January with the Charter Review Commission present to ask questions and consider those and discuss them. Tonight is just a presentation. And if you want to start, and we can just go around the room and everybody introduce yourself. Ann Mullins, Vernon Lance, Eric Moore, Derek Damiano, Gilbert Shelby, Sue Alexander. We have a few other members that aren't here. Kathy Cochran for sure, and I may be missing one, but these guys every Monday night for anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours poured through your charter or our charter to make recommendations going forward. So somebody is going to do a presentation tonight. I will turn it over to you guys to do that. I think Ann is going to do it.
Thank you all for your time and your commitment. Yeah, they deserve a round of applause at least.
Thank you all. I got a call from Kathy Cochran this afternoon. She was too ill to be here tonight. She was our chairman throughout the whole process and did a great job, and I'm actually your third string. So without further ado,
Or maybe you can't read it up there.
I was going to say, that's pretty tiny.
And raise your hand.
And I want to thank the council for the committee that you guys put together. There were 10 of us, and it was a great group. We all learned a lot. It was a diverse group. We had some great conversations, discussions. And out of that, we've got several proposed items to go for the voters. And I will quickly go through each of those. The first one has to do with the mayor and the mayor pro tem. There was a lot of discussion about this. Our charter is a little bit unclear as far as the description of the duties of the mayor pro tem especially, and this is no reflection on anybody who served as mayor pro tem. This really has everything to do with being clear, and it was the understanding of the group that the mayor pro tem is not the mayor, and in that sense, they are still a council member, and so they would retain all of their voting rights as a council member. And the wording that we proposed would just clarify those things, that it's, that they would temporarily assume the duties of the mayor, and they would still have the right to vote. But they would not have the right to veto. Questions on that one?
I think we'll discuss those at a workshop.
Very good. Section 3.06, vacancies, forfeitures, and filling of vacancies. This is another one that just needed clarifying language about when the election will be held. We have to follow state law, and we had some wording in there that still said the first election or the second election or the regular election. This will just clean that up to follow the state law that there are 4 regular election days, and it'll just make our charter align with that. 3.14, passes of ordinances in general. Again, this is clarifying that any ordinance that imposes a fine will have to be published in the newspaper still, and that's just clarifying that the publication of that. Section 4.01, city manager. This one probably had more discussion than any of them. And this has to do with the city manager residing in the city. And this has been a subject of conversation for many years. And it's been changed in the most recent charter review before us, changed it. And then we felt like it needed further clarification because there's still some ambiguity, specifically with the wording of, you know, when the city manager needs to be a resident of the city. And we felt like a clarification to, instead of imposing a time limit, you know, is it 6 months, is it 3 months, is it a year, that it needs to be decided by council because every situation is different. And we can't predict what the situation is going to be. But we also felt like it needed to be tied more concretely to something. And so we're proposing that it's tied to their employment agreement so that, yes, there may be some latitude in how long it is before they actually reside in the city, but it needs to be tied to their contract. And that's what this clarifying language will do. 4.04, municipal court. This simply adds a paragraph to define our associate judge. We've had an associate judge for many years, but it's not listed in our charter, and so this just adds that paragraph. Section 502, filing for office. This is another section that drew a lot of conversation, And there's been some recent discussion of when you file for an office and you're currently in office, do you have to resign your position before you run? And what we came to realize is that there's really no advantage to having someone leave their office to run for another office. And in fact, there is a disadvantage of most of the time we would end up with a vacancy and then we would need to have a special election. So it was the result of our discussions and all of our what-ifs, and we proposed that we take away all of the having to resign and just let anybody run for an office, and there will only be one winner in the election, and hopefully all of the positions get filled. Section 9.02 is, has to do with plating, and this is one of several where we are just once again realigning with state law. The state several years ago changed the rules for how many days it could be before you approved a plat, and we changed our charter to align with that, and then this time the state legislature changed it again, and so we are once again just aligning our charter with state law, but this time we're going to word it in such a way that it just says to follow state laws so that we don't have to keep playing tag with the legislature every time they change something. And 9.04, the master plan procedure and legal effect, it's another one of those very same things where we're just following state law. 10.02 ordinance granting. This was an interesting one. Reading through the charter that we've read a million times, someone asked, why does it say no franchise may be exclusive? And we don't know. In today's business climate, that's really, really hard to get a good price. And the best example of a franchise that would need to be exclusive is our trash service, our solid waste and our recycling. For many, many years, we have had only one trash company. Now, we do put those out for bids so that we get proposals from several companies, but once a company is selected, they are exclusive, and it would be really hard to get a good price on something that is not exclusive, and it would be really difficult to manage if we had 10 trash companies and 10 trash trucks on the roads tearing up our streets. And so it's, this one is necessary. I'm not going to say it's obvious, because it's really not, but it's necessary to work in the way that we work today. And it doesn't keep us from having competition on anything. It just takes away the prohibition to have an exclusive franchise on any one vendor. That's it. Questions?
Council, do you have any questions?
I don't believe we're discussing questions today.
We're good? Ms. Mullins, thank you very much.
See you at the workshop. Thank you all very
Yes,
much.
thank everyone that was on that committee for all your help. I know that was a lot of hours and a lot of dialogue to go through. It's a huge commitment. We thank you very much for that. Moving on in our agenda, number 3, planning and zoning. We're going to open a public hearing on a request from Crystal Gilmore and Lance Popham to grant a special use sign permit to Cedar Creek Cosmo at 426 South Gun Barrel Lane, Gun Barrel City, Texas, to allow the installation of an attached letter sign to the roof line. Again, I will defer first in the discussion to Dr. Smith.
Mayor, this one is open the public hearing, ask for any public comment. The next one, our planner will have a presentation.
Perfect. Any further? Now close the hearing. 3B, discuss and/or take action to consider adopting ordinance number 0-2 2023-022, granting a special use sign permit to the Cedar Creek Cosmo at 426 South Gun Barrel Lane, Gun Barrel City, Texas, to allow the installation of an attached letter sign to the roof line.
I am going to turn it over to Brooke to add consent to do a presentation. Brooke is our planner, and the applicant is also here to answer questions if council has any.
Hello. So on October 31st, we received an application from Lance Popham and Crystal Gilmore with Cedar Creek Cosmo. It was a special use or a special sign, a special use permit for sign, and it was a 16-foot wide by 3-foot 10 inches tall. The reason why they were requesting the special use permit is because it goes against Chapter 154.36 about on-site signs. It's stating that the sign cannot go above the height of the roof line. On the previous slide, there was a picture of kind of what it looked like, if you guys all saw that. The special use permit does not extend past the current owners, so whomever owns the property now and the business, it would only be effective to them, and then if they were to sell the business, the special use permit no longer applies to that location, so they would have to reapply if necessary. And then I mailed the letters on November 20th, which meets the 15-day letter notification, so that was 21 days. And then it was published in the paper on November 23rd, which is 18 days, which also meets the 15-day requirement. And yesterday at the Planning and Zoning Commission, they voted to approve, or they voted to recommend to the City Council for approval. If you have any questions, I can answer them as well.
So just to clarify, this is about where it sits on the roof line, not necessarily about the size of the sign.
That's correct, yes.
Further questions for the staff, council?
And if you have any questions for the property or the business owner, she's here as well.
That's it?
Thank you.
Thank you. I will now ask for a motion from council to approve ordinance number 0-2023-022, granting a special use sign permit to Cedar Creek Cosmo at 426 South Gun Barrel Lane, Gun Barrel City, Texas.
Burns makes a motion that we adopt ordinance number O-2023-022, granting a special use sign permit to Cedar Creek Cosmo at 426 South Gun Barrel Lane, Gun Barrel City, Texas, to allow the installation of the attached letter sign to the roof line.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Then I will move for a vote from my left, please.
Burns, yes.
Evans, yes.
Jacobs, yes.
Yes.
Boss, yes.
Motion passes. At this time, we will now enter into executive session 4A. We will convene into an executive session pursuant to Local Government Code 551-071, consultation with our attorney, and 551-072, deliberations regarding real property to seek legal advice and deliberate property along Highway 198 at the Gun Barrel City limit. Also 551-074, personal matters regarding the interim street superintendent. Let the record show we are convening at 7:08.
Oh,
Got to bring us back in.
huh?
Let the record show at 8:10, we are reconvening from executive session. I have an announcement. The Gun Barrel City has been approached by Hidden Hills Estate to release the ETJ and disannex a small piece of property along Highway 198 at the edge of Gun Barrel City limits. The releasing of this property has no material impact on Gun Barrel City. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the city authorize the disannexation and release of land from the city's corporate limit and ETG upon a petition for a lease being filed by the landowner.
Key second.
Any further discussion? Vote for my left.
Burns, yes.
Evans, no.
Jacobs, yes.
Key, yes.
Votes yes.
Motion passes. Our next is we reconvene in over the 55074 personal matters regarding the interim street superintendent.
I would like to make a motion that we allow the city manager to appoint staff as needed to serve as the interim street superintendents.
Second.
Any further discussion? Vote for my left.
Burns, yes.
Evans, yes.
Jacobs, yes.
Key, yes.
Votes yes.
Motion passes. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you. That's the greatest husband in the world, right?
Amen.
Need something.
That's a keeper right there. That guy sit through all that?
Not only that,
That's-
he
that's a
installed a
dude now.
tankless water heater for me this
One in here.
Don't
Later.
tell my wife that.
Exciting. Dinner.
Don't tell my wife that.
I'm in love.
Okay.